All right. Thanks everybody for joining me. I'm going to keep an eye on the clock and try to hold to our time here. And I'd like to have a little bit of time when we're done for a little bit of Q&A. If you happen to have any questions, for those of you that I haven't ever had a chance to meet, my name is Bart Blair. I wanted to just share a little bit about myself so that you know who I am. I'm the director of church revitalization for a ministry called Assist Church Expansion. Assist partners with churches in the Charis Fellowship in really two areas. One is we help churches plant new churches, and then we also help churches revitalize and refresh their vision for the future. And I have the privilege of serving our team and really serving our fellowship to walk alongside churches that are looking for a new and fruitful future. I've been a pastor in the Charis Fellowship for about 22 and a half years. Served in a couple of different churches, planting a church in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in this current season. And I also happen to be the co-host of a podcast called AI for Churches. And most of you probably don't know that. Even people who know me, I haven't done a whole lot to publicize it. I kind of got roped in to co-host this podcast. Started last year, and the honest truth is I'm kind of the dumb sidekick on the show. The show is really hosted by a guy named Dr. David Thorne, who lives in the Cleveland area. He is the research and development director for an organization called Missional Marketing, and he's been working in the AI space for a couple of years now, really since AI kind of became a thing that we all need to know about and think about. And he started a podcast about a year and a half ago or so, and invited me to come and co-host it with him. So I've been doing that. And as a result of that, I've spent a lot of time over the course of the last year kind of learning how churches are using AI. And I've used quite a bit of the things that I've been learning in my own ministry. And I've been trying to share that with other pastors and other church leaders along the way. And prior to our fellowship's national conference this summer, I asked our team at Assist if they thought it would be a good idea for me to host an event like this webinar. And it was a resounding yes, that everybody thought it would be something helpful. So hopefully you will find what we're going to do today to be helpful for you in your ministry. We have all kinds of people that are on the webinar today. We've got senior pastors, executive pastors, communications folks. We've got volunteers in the church, different ministry roles. And, most of what I'm going to focus on today is probably going to be geared towards the pastor or the communications person. But I think the tools that we're going to look at will be tools that most of you, if not all of you, can probably figure out a way to use in the context of your own ministry and the work that you're doing. What we're going to cover today is a case for AI in the church. Is it something we should use or not? And I'm going to make a case for the fact that I think AI is something that we're going to need to learn how to use in the church. We're going to talk about different ways that we can use AI in the church. We're going to talk about tools and examples of AI for the church. I'm going to demonstrate a few that I've been using that I've found to be helpful. And then I'm going to provide you some follow-up resources, and I'll share with you what those are going to be when we get to the end of our time together today. One of the questions that people do ask is, should the church actually be involved in using AI at all? Is this something that is relevant for the church? Barna released a report back in November of last year, literally a year after ChatGPT kind of became a thing. And the research that Barna came up with says that most Christians don't want AI in churches. And I think a lot of the problem that a lot of Christians have with AI is not so much their fear of churches using AI, is that they typically misunderstand or misinterpret how AI can be, will be, or even currently is being used in the context of the local church. Most people, when they think of AI, the first thing they typically think of is ChatGPT. Many of you, if not all of you, have probably dabbled around a little bit with this platform, OpenAI's ChatGPT. ChatGPT was launched publicly in November of 2022. And so we're coming up on the second anniversary of the launch of ChatGPT. When ChatGPT launched, it really opened the door for just tons and tons and tons of new AI tools being developed. And if we're to be honest, the AI world in a lot of ways is kind of like the wild, wild west right now. Things are evolving and developing very, very quickly. There are new tools, probably dozens, if not hundreds of new tools in AI being released on a daily basis. But the reality is, I think most people have a misunderstanding of what AI is and how it's actually used. A lot of people think about articles that they might have seen or heard or read, like this one from the AP that says, "Can a chatbot preach a good sermon?" Hundreds attend church service generated by ChatGPT to find out. I've listened to a number of podcasts and I've heard people talk about, having ChatGPT write sermons and then pastors standing in front of their congregation and reading the sermon. And I think a lot of Barna's research, again, goes to the fact that people just don't understand what AI is. And I will say that I don't believe that we should, as pastors, church leaders, be depending on ChatGPT to write our sermons or deliver our sermons for us. I don't agree with that particular philosophy, but I think that, again, when people think about AI being used in the church, that's pretty much what they're thinking, is that my pastor is just going to start using AI to write his sermons, and are we really going to get what we need as churches? Again, AI is everywhere. It's all around us. Most of us are thankful that our banks use AI. Most people don't even realize that. But when you get a phone call or a text message from your bank or from your credit card company telling you that there's been a charge on your card that may not have been you, that's an AI algorithm that's monitoring your purchases and your trends of spending, and a red flag goes up when it's not you. That's a good thing. That actually happened to me just last week. I got a text message from my credit card telling me, my credit card company telling me that there was a charge that didn't look like me, and they were right. It wasn't me, and they immediately closed the card down. When we use things like Uber, you're using AI technology to get from one place to another. Our entertainment, Netflix and YouTube, is all kinds of AI algorithms built into it, which is why we get fed the content that we get fed. And certainly Facebook, which the vast majority of people in our churches use Facebook, but they're uncomfortable with AI being used in the church. Well, guess what? If your church has a Facebook page, you've actually been using AI for some time. Maybe not intentionally, but there is AI built into all of those platforms and all those things that we're experiencing on a daily basis. Our doctors are using AI, and this is an increasingly rapid use. And this is something I think that we're all excited about. I was reading an article even just this morning about a new way of detecting the potential of aneurysms and using AI for that. Who wouldn't want that? Anyone who has ever had a major medical condition would love to know that there is some sort of artificial intelligence that's actually helping our doctors make better decisions and give us better care. Not only that, doctors are not notorious for being the most organized, and there are a lot of AI tools that medical offices and physicians are using now just to simply better organize their systems and their processes so that we as patients can be seen more effectively and more efficiently. And so when we look at all these different areas of life where AI is actually designed to improve our lives, and then we note that generally speaking, the church world has this hesitation about whether or not AI should be used in the church, I think it's a little bit hypocritical for us to say, I want my doctor to use it, but I'm not interested in my pastor using it. And so I think the biggest thing that we have to overcome is understanding how AI can and should be used in the local church. Some of your churches are probably already using some of these platforms: Subsplash, Planning Center, Pushpay, Church Community Builder, pastors using the Logos Bible software. Now, it's not evident right now what type of AI programming these platforms have built into them, but I guarantee you that every one of these companies has an AI development team working to make these products, these services better so that they can enhance the church. I think about things like Pushpay and Planning Center, Church Community Builder, and Subsplash that all have giving components to them. What executive pastor in North America, or the world for that matter, wouldn't love to have an AI tool built into their church management software where they could do predictive giving year over year based on past trends of attendance and not have to use an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Sheet to figure it out, but there's some sort of AI program built into those softwares so we can set more accurate budgets. And certainly as a church, these are things that are going to improve our ministries over the long haul. So is it possible for us to avoid using AI in the church? Probably not if we're using any programs or software applications like these that I'm showing on the screen here. What are some things that churches can and should be using AI to do? Well, I've got a short list here, and I'm sure you can probably think of more, but planning and creativity is an area where we can implement AI. Social media and online ministry, we already know that programs, applications like Facebook and YouTube, where we already have a presence, are using some sort of AI, but maybe there's some things that we can do to actually create more content using AI. I think that AI can help us in discipleship. I actually know of a company that will work with your church app to build some tools in it that can actually help better identify where people are in their discipleship process so that you can more intentionally and more effectively disciple people based on where they are on their spiritual journey. We use AI in email communications. We can strategize and build efficiencies into our systems better with certain AI tools. SEO, search engine optimization, and marketing, which really helps our outreach. We can use AI tools for those things. And then sermon prep and study. And again, I'm not saying sermon writing, I'm saying sermon prep. And I'm going to show you some things today that I think and I hope you'll find to be very interesting tools and different ways that pastors and church leaders can use AI to prepare sermons and really just be better stewards of their preaching and teaching responsibilities. One of the things I do want to highlight is that there is a difference between AI assisted content and AI generated content. And this is where I think the real nuance is. The article that I shared with you before showed that, a church used ChatGPT to write a sermon. We would call that AI generated content. AI assisted content is very different. The original ideas, the original concepts are original for the person or the team of people that are putting that content together. And then they use AI tools to actually make it better before delivery, or actually use AI tools to deliver the content. And so I think this is where there's a little bit of nuance. I'm actually working on a book that I'm going to have finished very soon. I have all of the content is my own original content, but I've used Claude to help with some of the writing so that it's better written. And I'm using Grammarly, which also has AI built into it, to make sure that my grammar and my punctuation and the language that I'm using is appropriate for the audience that I'm trying to reach with the writing that I'm doing. I would consider it AI assisted versus AI generated. Honestly, the work that the AI tools are doing for me are no different than an editor for a publishing company would do for me. Rather than paying an editor at a publishing company to do it, I've got a subscription to a couple of software applications that are using AI to do exactly what that publisher, that editor from the publisher would do for me. So I think as you go back to your churches, to your teams, and you start talking about AI, this is one of those points of clarity that I think is really important, that we understand that AI assisted is probably where we're going to lean most of the time. AI generated, probably not so much, but there might be times and situations and circumstances where AI generated content is something that we might want to use. I think that there are questions that churches should ask as they start to wade into the waters of artificial intelligence. I believe personally that in the current incarnation of AI, we refer to everything as AI, but I believe 10 years from now, we won't use the terms AI anymore. It will all simply just be lumped into technology. Sort of like when the internet became a thing, we considered being connected with our technology to be a different thing. And there was a lot of language that sort of emerged out of it. Nowadays, it's all part of our technology. The phones that we use, the computers we use, the televisions we use, the cars we use, everything has technology built into it. And I think over time, AI is just going to be lumped into all of our other technological discussions. I personally believe that churches should have a technology policy. You can probably look online to see what kinds of things churches have in their technology policy, but certainly one of the things that ought to be in the technology policy is how and when we disclose when AI is being used, especially if the AI is being used for content that is generated versus content that is assisted. And I think this is really important for senior pastors, church leaders of multi-staff churches. I think if I'm a senior pastor and I've got 10 people or 12 people on my staff and I'm asking them to work on things and put content together, I think as a senior pastor, it's fair for me to know when my staff is actually using AI tools to generate the content that they're creating or to refine the content that they're creating. That's an internal conversation that we want to have. And it's something that I personally want to have a technology policy for my church to have. But as a pastor, I don't believe it's important for every pastor to stand up on stage on Sunday morning and say, by the way, I used Grammarly to make sure that all of my grammar was proper in the sermon that I'm preaching today. I happen to use ChatGPT or uh, Gemini to find some quotes that I'm using in the sermon today. We don't expect our pastors to cite every single reference book or theology textbook or the Logos software that they're using when they preach on Sunday. We kind of expect them to be using that. It would sort of be akin, my podcast colleague David Thorne says, it would kind of be akin to the Sesame Street way of doing things, where we say, today's sermon was brought to you by the letter G. Is it Chat GPT? Like, today's sermon was brought to you because by whatever AI tool we used. I don't think we need to force pastors into that sort of disclosure, but I do think it is important that we have a technology policy and that we're asking these questions. The other thing I think every church needs to do is that we need to budget for technology, and we also need to consider AI tools as part of that technology. Most of us do have some level of technology that we're paying for, software applications and subscriptions and things. And I do think as you start to explore different technological tools and AI tools, that having some sense of the cost of these things is going to be important. I personally believe that when you're applying AI technology and AI tools the way they can be and should be applied, you're going to actually probably save time. You're going to save time from your staff, save time from yourself, and you're going to be more efficient in a lot of the things that you do, and hopefully more effective. And ultimately, I think that it's important for us to budget for those things so that we can help our churches be healthy, be balanced, help our staff be healthy and balanced, and to accomplish more with less time and less effort. And I think that that's what these technological advances can help us do. I want to talk about a variety of different AI categories. This is barely scratching the surface. There are a million tools out there. And when I say a million, I might not be exaggerating. There are so many different things. I ran across a software, an AI application the other day that can help you become a better negotiator. So you can literally practice negotiating with the AI tool. That really doesn't have much function for us in the local church. I don't think it shouldn't anyway. But these are some of the different categories and some of the different tools that churches are commonly using today. And this is one of the lists that I'm going to be emailing to you after our webinar today. I'll send you an email, PDF with all of these listed on it. But we've got text, writing, and learning tools. These are basically the large language models, such as Claude, Gemini, and ChatGPT. Those are the ones that are probably most common for people. We've got applications that churches are using to pull video clips, such as sermon shots, Opus Clips, Church.tech. There's social media content creation. A lot of churches are already using Canva. I'm going to demo a little bit of Canva today. I'm actually doing this presentation today. What you're looking at is actually a Canva slide that I created. Predis, SocialBee, MyMarquee, InVideo. I'm going to show you some InVideo work today. Multi-tool applications. These are tools that are actually built on large language models that do a variety of different things. Sermon Spark is one that I'm going to demonstrate for you today. Cast Magic is another one that I have some experience with, and I'll show you that one. There's a few others there. And then image generation. Image generation, I'll be honest with you, is the one that I probably have the least experience with. Image generation in AI is probably, at this point, to me, it's the most frustrating to use. It takes a lot longer to get to a finished product or a product that I find to be usable. So I know that they're advancing and they're getting better all the time, but I haven't personally spent a lot of time in the image generation. Some of these other tools, such as Gemini and ChatGPT, also have image generation in them. Canva has image generation in it, but those three tools there, Midjourney and DALL-E and Stable Diffusion, are the ones that I think most churches are using as their primary image generation AI tools. And some of these I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate for you today and show you how I am using some of them. All right, I'm going to switch my screen here. And I'm going to just kind of walk through a few tools and a few things that I am using on a regular basis. The first one that you'll see here is Claude. And then I've got Gemini and I've got ChatGPT. Now, if we start talking about some of the things that we can and we should be doing as a church on a regular basis, one of the things that I think I'm really an advocate of is helping our pastors' sermons live beyond the Sunday. How do we actually repurpose the content so that we can actually help a sermon live beyond a Sunday and make a greater impact throughout the course of the week? And I think this is something that pastors and church leaders are constantly trying to figure out. One of the things I think is very unfortunate in the church is that oftentimes a pastor preaches their sermon on Sunday, and by Tuesday, everybody's forgotten about it, and we're already looking on to the next week. But I think there's all kinds of opportunity for us to repurpose content in our sermons. And I'm going to show you how we can use Claude and Gemini and Chat GPT to do some of those things. What I'm going to start with today, though, is a tool called Sermon Spark, because this kind of starts before the sermon, and then it's also got some tools that can be used after the sermon itself is preached. Sermon Spark is a tool developed by a company called Missional Marketing that has a division called Missional Software. This is the organization that produces the podcast that I co-host. And it's been really exciting to see this particular tool be developed over the course of the last year or so. If you're a pastor, it's free. Sermonspark.ai is free. Again, I'll be sending you the link to this after the webinar today. It's free. There are limits to the use. You get credits. You can get more credits by opting in to receive some emails. But these credits give you the ability to do a variety of different things. There's research that you can do. You'll notice as I click through here and I drop down, there's Greek and Hebrew interlinear studies. There's historical verse context. There's news story finders, quote finders. There's a little section here called writing. So you've got creative sermon title generator, a sermon outline generator, a metaphor creator, just some creative things that might spark your juices as a pastor. And then there's a section called Reach, which gives you the opportunity to take the sermon and do more with it. One of the latest releases in Sermon Spark, which I'm really excited about, is the ability to actually create transcripts from your sermon in it. So if I click over here to My Transcripts, I've actually uploaded a couple of sermons that I recently preached, and it's really very simple. You come in here, you hit New Transcript, you put the name of your transcript, the speaker who's preaching, and you provide a link to the YouTube video, or you can upload an audio or video file, or you can simply paste an existing text transcript into it. And this tool will actually basically take your sermon. It will create a transcript of your sermon, and it will clean the transcript of your sermon. Now, there are other tools that you can pull, like your YouTube transcript, or you can pull the transcript from Adobe Premiere if you use that for post-production in your video. But this is really simple. You literally paste the YouTube link in, and within 5 to 10 minutes, you have a transcript. And if I go back here to My Transcripts, you'll see what it looks like is my transcript of the sermon that I preached right there. Every word that I said, looks like a lot of them. This was a pretty long sermon, I must confess. What's cool though, is that once we have this transcript, I can copy this transcript and I can paste it into a Google Doc or Word doc if I want to use it for something else. But there are also some additional tools that I can use in here. One of them is a group question generator. One is a social media post ideas. So literally it will scan through my sermon. It'll pull quotes and scriptures and give me ideas on things that I can create social media content from. There's a sermon to blog creator. So I can literally have the AI tool write a 1,200, 1,500, 2,000 word blog post based on the sermon that I preached. There's a sermon summary that you can have it write that you can use for your YouTube SEO or for your podcast when you're publishing your sermon content on your podcast. And then there's a devotional generator. I actually did use the devotional generator for this particular sermon, and it came up with a little devotional here that gave me 5 days, a 5-day devotional. Now, I didn't feel like it was really quite robust enough, so I copied it and I pasted it and I took it over here to Claude. And I asked Claude to actually do more with it. So I can literally paste that into Claude and write a prompt in Claude to tell me how I can make this devotional better. In fact, I'll do that. I'll copy it. I'll paste it into Claude. Now, it looks like just a big mass junk of stuff here. Oops. I shouldn't have hit enter. Let's try that again. Let's go back. I'm going to just go ahead and write my prompt. My prompt is going to say, let's see, give me some ideas about how I can make this daily devotional better. It's hard for me to type when people are watching. And then I'll paste it in here. and then I will cue my prompt. And Claude's going to read through my devotional, and it's going to give me some suggestions on how I can actually make it better. The first one, include more context by adding 1 to 2 verses before and after the main verse. Okay, that makes sense. Deepen the reflections, enhance the applications, broaden the prayer section, add a further study section. I think those are pretty good, but I'm going to say I'm going to do maybe 2 of them. We're going to go 5 and 6. So I'll just ask Claude to rewrite the devotional. Incorporating number 5 and number 6. And Claude will take my devotional, and it's now going to rewrite my devotional, and it's going to do the 2 things that it essentially asked me, that I asked it to do. And so now you can see it's actually creating a 5-day devotional for me that I can then email out to my church family. I can print this out. If I want to do this before I preach the sermon on Sunday, I can use my outline to do the same thing. But now with a few keystrokes here, I have a 5-day devotional with, I think, some pretty good content, all based on the sermon that I preached. Now, I would call this AI assisted content. It's using my sermon and my content to create the devotional. And so that's where I would categorize that. So a lot of stuff that you can do in Sermon Spark. That's just an example of something that you can do. Another thing that I like to do is if I take my transcript, I'll take this transcript. I can copy the entire transcript. Now I can use Sermon Spark to give me ideas for social media posts. But one of the things that I like to use Claude for is, I'll start a new chat here. If it's a long piece of text that you're pasting in, you'll see as I pasted it there, it actually looks like it's an attachment. And I will ask Claude to, actually, let's do this. I actually have a list of AI prompts. And by the way, I think this is always a really good idea when you get prompts that you like or that you want to use on a regular basis, go ahead and put them in a Google Doc so you can literally just copy and paste those prompts. So we'll do this. Write a 60-second script to use for Reels that will promote the teaching and point people towards listening to the sermon on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So based on this transcript, write a 60-second script. All right. So now Claude will actually give me a 60-second script that I can then, if I wanted to record a video to point people towards listening to my sermon, it's given me a little script. I can prompt it to do all kinds of things. And you'll see I write 5 daily text messages, give me a list of every Bible scripture, give me 8 quotes. You can actually copy and paste multiple prompts into the tool. So I'll do, let's do all 3 of these. And I'm still in the same prompt here. So it's going to use my transcript to complete all 3 of those prompts that I just asked it to do. It's like magic, isn't it? It's wonderful. So for those of you who are responsible for creating some social media content or follow-up content or discipleship content based on the sermons that get preached every week, simple, easy way to do this. Now, you can get your transcripts out of YouTube if you want to do that. If you're not going to use Sermon Spark, once your videos are uploaded into YouTube, one of the things that you can come down here and do is you can hit this little button here that says Show Transcript, and I can literally copy the transcript here. I'll copy that and I'll start a new prompt and I'll paste that in here and you'll see it paste it. And let's say, give me a list of 5 quotes from Pastor Brad's sermon transcript that I can use for social media posts. Limit to 240 characters each. And we'll see what Pastor Brad said that is tweetable, quotable, And so Claude will read through the transcript and it will pull some quotes that I can then use to create some social media content, again, pointing things back to the sermon for the week. So all kinds of stuff you can do. Now, what I'm doing with Claude, you can do the same things with Gemini and ChatGPT. Difference is you're going to actually have to upload a document, a PDF or a Word doc to do what I just did. So you can't just paste the transcript in. It's one of the reasons I like Claude. I like Claude for two reasons. One is I think that the writing in Claude, when you're using it for writing content, I find that it's a little more human. It feels a little less robotic than Gemini. Gemini is Google's tool, and of course, ChatGPT is ChatGPT, OpenAI. But you have to actually add an attachment, upload from your computer. So rather than doing that, I just use Claude because it's easier just to copy and paste. Now, what are some other things that we can actually use Claude, Gemini, and ChatGPT for? For those of you who are maybe not pastors, or maybe you're not in need of content creation for social media, here's something that I did the other day. I'll actually show you some of my previous prompts. Let's see, I'll go here. And I actually wrote a church volunteer screening policy. So I'm trying to get insurance for my church plant, and we needed our plan to protect. And so I started with basically prompting Claude to help me write a plan to protect, a comprehensive policy. I knew what some of the ideas that I wanted were. And so you can see my first prompt was actually fairly lengthy, and I didn't get back exactly what I wanted. But actually, this is one of the key things. I actually have this highlighted here. I learned this from another AI guru. When you're getting one of these AI tools to write for you, always finish your prompt with "ask me clarifying questions." So you'll notice that I want to write a plan to protect. I have some notes in here about what I want it to be. And then I finished with "ask me clarifying questions." It asks me questions. I respond to the questions, and then it writes what I'm looking for, including both my original prompt as well as the clarifying questions that I answered. Okay. It didn't give me exactly what I wanted. So I refined my prompt again, and I said, "ask me clarifying questions." And we went through the same exercise again. By the time I got to my, fourth prompt here, I finally had what I wanted. Actually, I wanted to add some Bible verses to it as well, some scriptures. Okay. So I ultimately ended up with a document that I can use for onboarding volunteers in our children's ministry that will satisfy, at least in the short term, the needs of our insurance company, to say that we've actually thought through this, we have a plan, we have a training plan, and we have an agreement that our volunteers are actually signing. A couple of other prompts that I have done recently were creating a volunteer profile for a church volunteer photographer. So I want to bring some photographers on to take events at church services and activities. And I wrote a prompt. You can see it actually was quite a bit. Actually, I ended up doing multiple. I did photographer, videographer, and a social media coordinator. But I basically told Claude what I was looking for, write a description for a social media content creator who will be the liaison. And I just reprompt and reprompt until I get the content that I want. So for some of you who are looking to write documents, or you need help even getting started with a framework for something, this is always a good place to start. The finished product, most of the time, is probably not what you're ultimately going to use, but it gives you something quick and easy to start with that will, if I had sat down to try to think through all this and write all this, it probably would have taken me an hour and a half to think through it. Instead, with a few prompts, I actually had an outline that I could work with in a matter of a few seconds. And then I can spend maybe 20 or 25 minutes refining it and making it what I really want it to be, and ultimately get the document that I want. So writing position descriptions, volunteer position descriptions, agreements for volunteers, small group discussion questions, using your sermon transcripts. There's all kinds of stuff that you can do in these large language models, Gemini, ChatGPT, and Claude. All of them have free versions. All of them have paid versions. I'm using the paid versions, and I use the paid versions primarily because Gemini doesn't allow you to upload a an attachment unless you have the advanced. Claude just has a limit to the number of prompts that you can do in a day. And I found myself exceeding that all the time. I actually am using the free version of ChatGPT because I actually use ChatGPT the least of all of these. A few other quick things while I'm going to take maybe 7 to 10 more minutes to kind of go through a few other items here is some other tools that I have some experience in. One of them is called InVideo. InVideo is a tool that, if you don't have high quality videos from your sermons or your church experiences on Sunday, but you want to create videos, you can use your sermon content to create videos. And I'll basically share with you, we have a house church. We do an audio recording of our sermons. We don't actually do a video recording. But I wanted to create some video content for our YouTube channel and for social media. So I actually took my sermon transcript, went into Claude, asked Claude to write me multiple 60-second scripts. Then in InVideo, I actually import the script and it creates a short video for me that does have some editing capabilities. Now I'm going to play this for you. And so you'll get the whole 42 seconds, and then I'm going to kind of fill you in a little bit on some of the nuance here.
In the storms of life, it's easy to feel like we're adrift at sea, tossed about by the waves of circumstance. But Jesus offers us hope and stability in the midst of the chaos. In John 15:5, he says, "I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing." When we abide in Jesus, the true vine, we have an unshakable foundation. We can weather any storm, knowing that our lives are rooted in him. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by the challenges you're facing, cling to Jesus, abide in him, and let his strength and peace sustain you.
Okay, so for full disclosure, that's not actually me talking there. I hope that it sounds like me, but that's actually an artificial intelligence version of Bart with this tool. I recorded a 30-second clip of myself, uploaded it, and then I had Claude write the script. I import the script. I add the voice that I want to use, which in this case, I use my own voice. And in less than 5 minutes, I have a video created. I can go in and I can edit the script and modify the script if I want to. I could choose different music, and I can also even change the videos or the images that are used in the background. But honestly, I took one sermon, created 5 different scripts, and in less than an hour, I had 5 different videos that I could post on our Instagram Reels and our YouTube Shorts channel for the week. And posting 5 videos over the course of 5 days, one of those videos went, I will call it viral for me, had over 4,000 views in a 24-hour time period. And I had over 40 new subscribers on my YouTube channel. Creating short form content is something that churches ought to be doing, especially if you can repurpose your sermon content for that. I don't have video content to use, and I really don't have the bandwidth or the energy to shoot separate videos outside of our Sunday sermons. So I played around with this tool a little bit to create some of those short clips, and it's all AI. Another tool that I've experimented with is called Vidyo, VIDYO.ai. Now, there are a number of different platforms. This is one that I've used. I've got the free version of this one. I literally took one of Paul Pointer's sermons from his YouTube channel. I pasted the YouTube link in it, and it took about 20 minutes to process it, but it actually went and grabbed, how many clips do I have here? I don't know, 16 different short clips. It ranks them from top to bottom in terms of how viral it thinks it might be. And, the clips look and play like this. I literally did nothing to create this other than paste the YouTube link in it.
Forsakenness involves loneliness, but extends to something much deeper. Forsakenness is also not simply being let down as in a sense of betrayal, but it's also that, at least the betrayal of maybe unfulfilled expectations that someone may have.
So you can see you've got a short video clip that you can post on social. Now I'm using the free version. The free version, when I download this, this created with video AI, that's going to be there. If I get the paid version, then there's more features. I can actually brand it, add my church logo, do some other things with it, and that watermark goes away. But for the sake of just kind of demoing this for you, I thought I would put that together. You can change the caption fonts, and there are a few things that you can do in the free version, but it's very limited. But the paid version, you can do a lot more. Now, Video, VIDYO, is one of a number of tools that you can use for this. This one is really probably only good if your pastor does not move, because it doesn't have image follow. The best ones, Sermon Shots and Opus Clip, have image follow. They also happen to be the most expensive. But if your pastor moves around a lot, this probably isn't going to be the best tool for you. But it is one that if your pastor, like Pastor Paul, does rather stand rather still, he doesn't wander a whole lot behind his platform there or on the platform. So it's pretty easy to grab some clips of him. Cast Magic is another tool that I've used. This is actually designed specifically for podcasters, and this is one of those multi-purpose tools that I was talking about. You can add your audio into Cast Magic. It creates a transcript for you, just like Sermon Spark would. And then it actually has a bunch of pre-programmed AI content that it automatically goes through and does. One of the first things it does is it tries to give you a title for your podcast. Obviously, these are sermons, so we already have a sermon. It gives you keywords that when you're uploading this to your Spotify or whoever hosts your Podbean or whoever hosts your sermon podcast, it gives you the keywords to add in there. It's interesting. It creates a speaker bio based on the content that's in the audio itself. I thought that was very interesting. Writes a little introduction that you can use, gives you some time-stamped overviews, gives you some discussion questions that you can use. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff. You can actually, in Cast Magic, you can sort of pre-program what you want it to do. These are sort of the defaults. So if I was looking for specific clips, quotes, hooks, and timestamps, it identifies some spots that it thinks would be interesting quotes for me to use for social. It gives me a Reels script, LinkedIn posts, content for a newsletter if I wanted to email the details out, a tweet thread, so on and so forth. So I played around in Cast Magic a little bit. One of the things I discovered, though, and that's what led me to actually write this particular Google Doc with all of these prompts, is that a lot of these things in this prompts were things that Cast Magic was doing. And I realized that I could actually put all of these prompts in together in Claude or in Gemini once I uploaded my transcript, and it would do the exact same thing. So I stopped using Cast Magic because I realized I preferred Claude. It was a little easier for me to use. I was trying to think if there was anything else that I wanted to cover. I think that's about it in terms of the tools that I've been using. I'm going to switch back over to here. The follow-up resources that I'm going to give to you, and then we'll have about 10 minutes for questions, not a ton of time, but hopefully we'll get a few good questions in. I'm going to send you a list of the PDF with all the tools that I shared. I'm going to send you that Google Doc with those sample prompts that I've written. I'm going to send you links for the AI for Churches Facebook group and the podcast. So if you're interested in kind of engaging that Facebook group, you can learn a lot more. And then once I upload this video and have it in a place that you can rewatch it or share it if you want to, I will send you the link for this video. And that is all I have to share on this webinar. I hope these things have been helpful for you. I know I went really, really fast and covered quite a bit. But with the last 10 or 12 minutes that we have together, let me know if you've got any questions. I think maybe the best way to do that is just type your message or your question in the chat if you have a question. Let's see. Eric Smith, of all the programs you listed, which do you think is most valuable, cost reward? I have used Claude more than anything else. And because Sermon Spark is free, I will say that's probably going to be a great place for you to start because Sermon Spark is free. You can get your transcript for free. You can do a few different things. At the very least, get your transcript. Then you can take your transcript and go into Claude and do all the other stuff that I did. This week, for our weekend worship gathering that we're having at our home, I used Claude to create a little devotional that I'm going to give out to everybody based on the content that I'm preaching. I've used it to create text threads and text messages that I'm sending out and scheduling out to encourage my church family during the week. I like Claude the best. That's kind of become my default. And I do have the paid version of that, which if you'll give me a second, I'll tell you what I'm actually paying for that. if I can find the account info. I have the personal pro plan, which with taxes is $21.32 a month. And I would say Claude probably saves me on average. Like I use it a lot when I'm even doing my sermon prep. So for instance, I'll for full disclosure, full confession here, I'm preaching a sermon this Sunday that I preached about 8 years ago. I took the transcript from the sermon that I preached 8 years ago. I could not find my outline, and I realized it was too long. So I took the transcript, I put it into Claude, and I asked Claude to suggest how I could divide the sermon from one long sermon into 2 shorter sermons. So after a few prompts and a few attempts, it gave me kind of some direction on how to do that. And then I actually asked Prompt to use my sermon content to recreate an outline for me so that I can actually repreach the same sermon that I've already preached once before, because it was so long ago, I no longer have the original outline from that sermon. So it saved me. I mean, now what it gave me was the core of what I'm going to use, but it probably saved me, man, from having to go through and re-listen to my old sermon, which who wants to ever re-listen to their old sermons? Most of us don't. And kind of go through it and kind of recreate the outline. Man, that saved me so much time in having to do that. It's time saver as much as anything else. Other questions? Ron Boehm, program for book writing. That is a good question. I've played around with one. Let me see if I can actually remember what it was called. While recording the webinar, I could not remember the tool that Ron asked about, which is what I've used a little bit in book writing. And the tool is called Dibbly Create. Here's a screenshot of what that looks like. Let's see, Megan asked, what was the program you mentioned for the reel videos if you have a pastor that moves around? The 2 best, Sermon Shots is what everybody considers to be kind of the cream of the crop. Sermon Shots, that's going to be on the list of the ones that I'm going to send you. Opus Clips is the other one that I know a lot of churches are using. Sermon Shots, obviously by the title, is designed for churches. Church.tech, I have not used that one. That one might have decent image, like camera follow as well, but Sermon Shots is kind of the premier there. All right, well, I'm going to wrap this up. Shoot me an email. You got my email address. If you need anything, I'll be sending you an email with everything that I promised here within the next day or so. And God bless. Hope you all have an amazing day.